Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we would have a look at the rest of the suggestions passed to the devs for Ground. There's a bunch of really cool stuff here for a ton of different nations. So let's get into it, let's see what's available. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and like the video. Let's get started. The first vehicle is the MIM-72, and this is for China. The MIM-72 Chaparral is a self-propelled missile air defense system developed and put into service by the United States in the 1960s. The weapon is an air defense missile modified from the AIM-9D air-to-air missile with a maximum range of 6 kilometers. The system lacks all-weather combat capability and also radar, resulting in low single-vehicle combat capability. Therefore, the system was completely retired in the US in 1997 and stored in a warehouse. Although the United States no longer uses this air defense system, its foreign trade MIM-72 is still in use and maintained in Taiwan province today. Taiwan purchased the MIM-72 air defense system and accompanying missiles in 1979, including land-based self-propelled air defense systems and maritime air defense models equipped with ships. It can use many types of missiles, including the MIM-72E, G, H, J, and F. It can also be paired with a radar car and AN/MPQ-49 radar to assist in target search. But due to the system being very outdated, it underwent an upgrade in 2017. But the performance improvement was not significant, and the equipment was very outdated. Therefore, they plan to retire it and switch to the Tianjian 2 air defense system. For Italy, we have the Otto Melara OF-40 SPAA, the Attack 35. During the late Cold War, Otto Melara had been very active in a lot of defense sectors. As such, it was no surprise that they would begin to develop a multitude of wheeled and also tracked military platforms. One of their most important designs was known as the OF-40. The OF-40 was a stepping stone for Otto Melara, as thanks to that design, a lot of new variants of vehicles would be made, or proposals based on it. Its design could be traced back to the Otto Melara Leone, which was in essence a modified Leopard 1 tank. That experience was vital when creating the OF-40. So much so that some design elements from the Leone would make their way onto the OF-40. The tank was initially offered to the Italian army, but due to the fact that they already had several hundred Leopard 1 tanks in service, they would see no need for adopting the OF-40. Otto Melara would instead focus their efforts with the OF-40 by placing it on the export market. Some nations would be interested, but only the UAE would ever adopt the OF-40. Otto Melara would then create an upgrade, which improved the previous OF-40 and basically made the Mark II standard. Sometime after Otto Melara had created the Mark II, they had then kept on studying the machine to see what other upgrades could be implemented to further increase its chances of being exported. An evolution of the OF-40 platform would be made, known as the Palmeria. The Palmeria mainly referred to the artillery system that was placed on the improved OF-40 platform. The Palmeria platform would be able to install heavier turrets and had access to better engines. This same Palmeria platform would eventually lead to vehicles such as the Automatic and the OF-40 Mark III. One lesser known and quite obscure variant would be the OF-40 SPAA. Its official designation is unknown, but it usually would be known as the Semavente OF-40 CA1 or OF-40 Attack 35. It would be made around the 1980s and seemingly was shortly offered to the Italian army, as at the time they had little to no modern AA systems at their disposal. This platform paired the Italian Otto Melara Palmeria platform and the Swiss Contraves AG twin 35mm attack turret. The attack turrets would be based on the German Gepard, but with some notable differences, which allowed the system to have a considerable higher combat capability. This was mainly due to the new digital onboard fire control system, improved gun systems, and also loading, reduced reaction time, higher hit probability, and also improved armament, which allowed the cannons to fire new generation Oerlikon-Burl 35mm munitions. The range of the 35mm cannons would be around 5 kilometers, which was similar to the Gepard platform. It had access to a search radar with a maximum range of 15 kilometers, whilst the tracking radar had a max range of 13. If for whatever reason it had to retreat or just cover itself, it also had access to 12 smoke grenades, a small improvement over the 8 on the Gepard. Otto Melara, together with Contraves, would try to market this platform to many nations, but ultimately had no luck. Otto Melara put the prototype in storage, and it likely got scrapped some years ago due to it not being in good enough condition to warrant a restoration. For France, we have the ERC-25 Lanza. The Lanza is a technology demonstrator for the TTB-125 turret. Revealed in 1983 during Story 9, the ERC-25 Lanza shows some very good performance and also features. The turret was designed to offer a wide range of roles for any light armored vehicles tracked or wheeled. And this turret offered at the same time anti-armor capability, anti-helicopter capability, and also light direct fire support, reconnaissance capacity, and also urban adaptation. The Panhard ERC was used for the chassis. The ERC, introduced in service in 1980, was at the time quite new and considered quite good. The vehicle was initially offered as an export venture as the successor of the AML-90, but the main use turned out to be France itself, who took the fancy to this vehicle, or the ERC-90 as it's known, for their use. The ERC-90 in France was only retired recently, and it was the natural for SAMM, who produced the TTB-125 turret, to present the turret with the ERC's chassis in 1983. The vehicle was perfectly capable of carrying the turret and used it in the role it was intended for. This choice probably improved the chance for export of the turret, but unfortunately no buyers were found. The main armament of the ERC-25 is not the usual French autocannon. This one is carrying the American Hughes chain-gun 25mm M242. This autocannon had only the M791 APDS and also the M792 HEI rounds available, as the M910 APF STS was only introduced in 1996 and the characteristic and development was only approved in 1986. That means the ERC-25 never had access to those rounds. The gun is extremely swift. 160 rounds are ready in the turret in 2 belts, and an additional 80 rounds are stored in the turret for a total of 240 rounds. This ammo loaded is not much, but with a rate of fire of 200 rounds per minute, this is enough. The gun also can elevate at -8 to +50 at a very great speed of 30 degrees per second, and the turret could also turn 360 degrees at a good speed of 60 degrees per second. This is not a proper anti-air vehicle, but it was designed to be capable of fighting helicopters, and obviously it will be able to do that. The sight offers a zoom of 7 times, which is not great for long-range engagement, but this is not really a vehicle for long-range engagement. The vehicle also features a night vision for a night engagement, but the most exceptional, since it's France, this vehicle had a gyro stabilizer for the gun, and optic to allow engagement in movement while turning the turret. For Sweden, we have a MIM. This is the 15.5cm Haub 77A, or Haubitz FH77A 155mm L38. With the ever-increasing mechanization of the infantry, artillery units of the Swedish armed forces were starting to have problems keeping up with the infantry with their traditional guns. This problem only increased as time went on and more mechanization of the infantry took place, though the then current French Obusier de 155 Model 50 were well light. Their slow deployment was part of this issue. In addition, the mounts were prone to cracking in the Swedish climate, which further expedited the need for a new gun. Other felt issues were a slow rate of fire and also costly maintenance. So in the 1960s, plans for adoption of a new artillery piece were prepared that would resolve these issues. Criteria for the new gun was formulated, officially during testing that took place in 1965 to 68. Also, to keep costs low, a non-tracked gun was chosen, similar to conventional guns. The main criteria of the new gun were long range, high rate of fire, great mobility, off-road capabilities, and also better effect per single shell. In the late 1960s, the FMV, or Forsvarsmaterielverk, started working together with Bofors AB to design and produce a suitable gun and also ammunition to meet these demands. A few years later, the first guns and ammunition would enter trials and crew training around 1973-74. Sorting out teething issues and setting up production would take a few years, with series production starting in 1978. The system that emerged was a 155mm gun, being able to drive itself with its own engine from the drop-off point to the firing position without any extra vehicles or manpower to set it in place, even in snowy off-road conditions. The engine was also used to power the hydraulic aiming system, allowing the gun to traverse and elevate in all directions automatically via control input, rather than a need for individual gun layers to do that work by hand. The gun was now using a two-piece ammunition that did away with the classic brass cases and instead used a lightweight plastic propellant charge case and a crane and loading tray to lift and load the heavy projectiles. The tray can hold 3 rounds, only projectiles ready to fire, with another 3 rounds carried by the crane to be placed on the tray once it's empty. It could be possible to store 1 more inside the barrel for a 6+1 ammo capacity. The propellant cases are loaded in by hand by placing the case in the rammer ramp and letting it load from there. There is no specific place for these lightweight cases to be placed, so they're usually in their 12-round container nearby. For Israel, we have the Merkava/Magach 3, basically a weird testbed prototype. Information about this tank in particular is pretty hard to find. It was a prototype of the Merkava built in the early 70s for trial. The tank was refitted with a Magach 3 turret. The reason for the hybrid tank is not really clear. It's surely just because they needed a turret for a proper trial, or because they might have considered the possibility of refitting the Merkava with the existing turret to save money. The Merkava was at this time a prototype but was not yet ready for production. It was just at the test drive stage. Many Magach turrets were mounted on the Merkavas while waiting for the real turret to be ready. They later got replaced by, of course, the Merkava turret. While the information of the history behind the tank is hard to come by, the tank wouldn't actually be that hard to add to the game. The Merkava turret was the only one truly considered. This tank is simply a Merkava with a pattern turret. Both well known to the player, can easily just swap the Merkava turret for the Magach turret, and that would give you a new hybrid tank unique to Israel. It would have less protection than the Merkava 1, but better mobility than the Magach 3. Overall, it sounds pretty fun. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecovo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.